So most people hate sales because they fear being pushy. But if you feel like you're being pushy, it's not because sales is pushy, it's because you're doing it wrong. You are basically trying to convince rather than guide them to the answer. I guarantee you've heard this, or you've even said this yourself, that you don't want to be pushy. And what happens here is that you go into a sales call feeling this awkwardness and feeling like you're going to have to push them to make a decision. But here's the thing, the best salespeople never fear or never even feel awkward that they're actually trying to get that person to pay them, because that awkwardness completely destroys how they're selling. And what actually happens is that the buyer can actually sense this and it really starts to distance themselves. But here's the truth. Buyers don't hate to be guided. They hate to be forced. Now, if you're worrying about being pushy, it's fine, you can fix it. This is your limiting belief. It's not them that you're trying to fix. You need to shift your mindset to realize that you're not being pushy. You need to get comfortable by guiding people to their answer, and that is the buying decision. Now, I've got some tough love for you. No one wants to give you your money. You have to earn that. It's your job to bridge the gap between what they need and what they want. That is not pushy. That is service. Now, what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to show you all the ways that you can stop being that pushy salesperson that no one wants to actually close and speak to, and get you into being that person that is guiding someone into the sales process, allowing it to feel natural so that you don't feel awkward. You can actually enjoy doing the sales call and not feel like you're blubbering or waiting to answer that. Now, think of it like this. Like, I am now speaking at the camera to you, giving you advice. Is this a natural thing? Initially, it wasn't. However, I'm still doing it, and I'm doing it like I am talking to you like we're on a meeting. And there's the difference. You have to be able to learn that skill, because you're gonna feel awkward, you're gonna feel weird, but get over it, because you're not the person that on this call that is going to have the problem or the pain. You need to be able to deliver that message that's going to allow that person to get the guidance to make the decision. It's your obligation, it's your job. That is literally your duty, to make that person be guided into buying. Because if you don't do that, then you have not done your job, and that's just not good enough. There's no excuses. Now, this starts with mindset shift, okay? And your first shift needs to be focusing on why are they actually on this call? What has made them book onto speak to you or onto this demo or fill in that form now you've called them? Well, what is this pain that they have? Because there has to be something that they need to fix. Now, this is critical because, again, when you're feeling like you're being pushy, if you know what their problem is and you can solve that, is that a problem to guide them into that answer? Now, let's just assume that pushiness is getting them to pay you the money, because that's what people basically base it off, okay? Now, if you're able to solve that problem and take away that pain, is it your obligation to get them to do that? Especially if you know, and this is the next thing, is like, you know, you should know this is why you're selling it. Then how are you being pushy? You are doing a service to someone. You are helping that person. So that is what you need to remember about these calls, is that you are doing a service to someone else, and it is transactional, which I'll come on to in a second. Now, the second mindset shift is, why do people buy in the first place? Everything is transactional. Everyone will buy something for value in return, okay? And that could just be a bar of soap, you know, someone pays $5 or $10 these days, geez, and they're gonna get that soap because they wanna feel clean and they wanna smell good. And that is literally what a transaction is. It is literally trading something, normally money, but for centuries, people used to trade bloody goats, or they used to trade coins, or they used to trade land. Like, people have been doing this for centuries. It's a natural human being thing, okay? But what we're talking about here is transactional of money, and then they're gonna get value in return, which is normally this pain that we're solving, or the solution that's gonna help them exponentially make more money. So what your job is to make that transaction a no-brainer. When they give you that money, then they're gonna get the value back, and you need to show them that and give them all of that value to now enable them to be able to make that decision. And they will not give you that money until they see that that value, that transaction is gonna be worthwhile. Great example, no one will ever give you a £100 note if you're gonna give them a £10 in return. However, if I give you a £100 note and then I'm gonna get back, I don't know, let's say I'm gonna get a massage, I'm gonna get coaching for a 20-minute call that's going to help me make £1,000, and you're going to give me a £10 note. Well, I probably will do that because I'm going to be able to make more money from those value that I'm gaining compared to my £100 note or $100 note. And this is critical of when you are doing this, okay? So do not fear the pushiness in this situation. All you're doing, and that value is going to make them more money, solve their problems and their pains, and make them happier, better, whatever it is that you're selling, okay? So you're never being pushy when you are actually just helping someone and they're giving you that transaction, just like we used to do with goats back in the day, and then we had something else in return for that. It is natural. We've been doing it for thousands of years. It's all good. Do not worry. Now, I want to give you this example, and it's a very extreme example, but it allows you to see the picture that I'm painting here. So remember the last time that you went shopping and you weren't 100% sure. Maybe you had a friend with you. Maybe there was one of the people that worked there, family member, whoever, okay? And normally what happens is you lean on them for guidance or at least validation that this item, this top, this whatever, is something that you want, okay? So you start asking questions, and then what may happen is that you go yes or no, okay? Because you're able to validate your own thoughts. Now that is what sales is like. That is the guidance. That person that you're asking that question to in that store, that person is just giving you validation and guidance back to you to make that decision. They don't tell you, you have to buy that t-shirt or you must buy it now. You probably won't want that because you're not getting convinced. But if they're able to ask probing questions that allows you to answer the kind of question yourself, then you're going to be wanting to buy that t-shirt, especially if you need it. Now, let's go through an example right now. Now, the type of questions that you, as the salesperson in this situation, or that friend or whoever that could be guiding this person, is simply asking them because they're a bit unsure of. So let's say this person needs to, well, not needs, but they're looking at a red and white t-shirt, okay? And it's $60 in total for these, okay? The type of questions that you're asking, which will basically get them into buying mode, is asking them this, okay? So let's say I am the salesperson and you guys are buying a t-shirt, red and white, for $60. Simply asking them is, do you have a red and white t-shirt? And the answer will be, no, I do not. So the next question will be, so why do you want to buy a red and white t-shirt? And they're going to say, I need it for work. So then I ask, okay, great. So if you don't buy these, what are you going to wear to work if you need to wear a red and white t-shirt? Now you're going to probably say, well, I'm not sure. I obviously can't not have a red and white t-shirt, or they may just say, I'm not sure. So now this is where you go into the guiding mode, because you would then say something like, okay, no, I'm hearing you. Rocking up to work on your first day without a red and white t-shirt when that is the dress code, that would be a little bit problematic or a little bit awkward, wouldn't it? You're gonna go, yeah, no, that would be really a problem. I don't want to do that. So this again is when the guidance side comes in. You could just tell someone and force them, well, you need to buy these t-shirts then, it's $60. That's not the way to do it, okay? This is what most people do. It's just not the way. You simply just ask them, so what are you gonna do? Now, in that situation, they're making a decision. You've already probed their brain that the problem of this is, I don't have a red and white t-shirt, I need to wear this to work, and I don't want to feel awkward. So you've kind of painted the pain of what the consequence is. Imagine rocking up to work on your first day, not in the right uniform. The stress that would go through someone's body, they would feel that, okay? Now they're going to sit there and go, well, I've got this red and white t-shirt here, okay? And they're probably going to go, well, I need to buy these red and white t-shirts. You're going, yeah, amazing. What's your size? Or they look good on you. I don't know, whatever their point, okay? And at this point, you may be able to upgrade them to 3 or 4 because you haven't done anything. You literally just guided them. You know where you want to get them to. They know they need these t-shirts. And again, we're guiding them. Now, this is an extreme example, but you get it from this, okay? And then hopefully you get them to buy 5, so 1 for every day. And happy days, you just F5x your sales. That'd be fantastic. Now, this is the equivalent of closing without pressure. No neediness, no time pressure. This is simply using guidance to close. And this is what the best salespeople do, okay? Now, don't get me wrong. You sometimes need to be trying to force a little bit down people because they are not making the right decision. But I would say 90% of closing is just simply through guiding them through the hurdles, getting them on track, feeling the pain, and then you'll be successful. And you won't feel needy when you do it. That's the best part about it. Now, what I find in sales is that most of the time, the 3 objections that someone's gonna get anyway, you can probably predict at the start of the call. It's going to be money concern or money shock, where they weren't expecting that price. They're gonna have lack of time or lack of commitment issues that they feel like they're not gonna be able to do it. And it's also going to be low belief or fear of failure. They're not gonna feel like they're gonna be able to do this because they feel like they need support, or they're gonna feel a little bit overwhelmed, like what if fails, okay? Now, when you know this going into a call, because this is human nature, okay? This allows you to understand that most of the problem that someone has is it's their own internal worldview, it's their own internal belief, okay? And what you're not doing here is convincing them. It goes back to the guiding, like I said, okay? And this is really critical to understand, because all you're trying to do is make that person a better person. Again, this is why you have to start to understand that sales is psychological. It is never about these, you see all these 17 and 18-year-old influencers doing like these hard closes, and it's bigging them up where they're talking over a mugged voice, and a lot of them, not all of them, a lot of them are fake calls where they can stage the answers, okay? And they do work 100%, don't get me wrong, but a lot of people, and what you see in these videos as well, is that a lot of these people are projecting what's wrong, but not actually telling you the internal issues that they're having. So in your belief of your own product, you need to understand that, is this right for them? If you can answer that, fantastic. You should only be selling to people that is ticking. Don't fear or don't worry about having to say no to someone. If you don't feel like that service is for them, say it. And if that's going to solve their problem, fantastic. Then let's go into helping them make that decision. I think this just really resonates with people in this day and age. Let's say you're a parent, okay? And you have a kid and you want them to eat broccoli. Now, broccoli is very good for them. You know that they need this, but what happens when they say, no, I don't want this? So you're 100%, you know for a fact, like the world is round, this broccoli is good for them. They should be eating this food. What are you gonna do? When they sit there and they say, I'm not eating this broccoli, they push it away, they say, no, 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 no. Are you just gonna go, okay? Now, unfortunately, and this is with a bad salesperson, they will either agree with them or they'll try to force it down the throat. What's gonna happen? They're gonna cry, they're gonna scream. It's not going to work. Same thing in the world of sales. That's not going to happen, okay? So what would you do? Well, we have to go through a methodology of getting them to realize that this is good for them, and they make that decision for them. And now that sounds easier than it is. It can be easy, but it has specific questions to get them to get to that answer. Now, a bad salesperson will try to force that down the kid's throat, and not figuratively, but like in the sales aspect, they will start forcing it, saying things, kind of getting a little bit angry. That is what kind of trying to convincing is, okay? A good salesperson will hold their temper and be able to get them to answer that themselves and get them to actually want to be eating it, okay? And this is what you have to remember when you're selling. People don't want to do what's good for them. That's about 90% of people, or even 99% of people. The top 1% actually got a different worldview to do this. And this is why you see obesity. This is why you see everyone being lazier. This is why you're seeing all these type of things in the world right now, where people are just not caring about certain things. They want the easy way out, okay? And then the problem with that is that they do what is familiar. Now, your job is to get them from A to Z, okay? And not force them in doing that. It's to guide them to do what's best. And there's a lot that goes in between this, but this is just about focusing on your brain rather than the actual skill to how to do that, because that's a whole separate video. But once you realize these two things, I can't stress this enough, you start to realize that you're never being pushy. You're just doing it wrong. And that you need to flip how you're doing this, because the world will change around you. You'll start making so much more money, and you'll actually have fun and never feel anxious on a call. Imagine that. So next time you feel pushy, just remember these things, okay? You're not here to convince someone. You're here to guide them, okay? And remember the questions. Why are they here? And why do people buy? These things will trigger you in your brain to remember that people are doing transactions constantly. It's not an unnormal thing, okay? And your job is to guide them into making them understand that what you're offering, what service, what product, whatever it is, that money that they're going to give you in that transaction is going to add so much more benefit in their life, will solve these problems and help them, and it's going to relieve all these problems, okay? That is your job. And when you're able to then get to the closing phase and you can remember and ask specific questions to make them feel the pain, to allow them to want to do it, because everyone is driven by emotion. They're not driven by logic. That is when you're not ever feeling pushy. You're just guiding people to the top. And just remember, someone doesn't just accidentally end up on your calendar. They have something that they need to fix, and there's a problem, okay? So the fact that they've taken 30 minutes out of their day or an hour out of their day to book onto a call for your service, there has to be something there. And if you don't know what that is, you haven't done your job. And that is where you feel pushy, because you're just trying to like battle getting this broccoli into that person's mouth. When if you realize that that broccoli would make them feel 10 times as fit, then you would be like guiding them, letting them know how well this is going to make them feel, getting them to, whatever it may be, okay? You're going to get them into that mood. So just remember that this person is not just magically appearing on your calendar. They've taken their time, and a lot of people's time is a lot of money to them. So do not stress. And then when you have this perspective that sales doesn't feel stressful, it feels like a service. You actually are helping someone, and it's the best thing ever. When I remember the first couple of years, and I still have it like when I do it, but there's nothing better than someone that you sell to having this amazing testimonial, this transformation, or whatever. That it's fantastic because you've played a massive part in that. Like, think of it. You've helped that person fight through the biggest demons of stopping them from doing this. It could be transactional worries, it could be whatever. And you've allowed them to get to that solution. You've helped that person. You've genuinely made a difference in that person's life. How awesome is that? Not a lot of people talk about that in sales. They just talk about making the money, but there's a genuine rush that you get when someone genuinely is, something's solved or something's fixed through what you're doing. And the beautiful thing about this is that you just feel natural and confident. They feel supported and not sold. And the decision becomes obvious. It just feels like a natural process. It feels like a consultant. It really just makes everyone feel better. And when they feel like that, there's nothing better than the referrals that come from it. And there's less buyer's remorse. There's so much more positivity in there. It just creates such a great community of clients compared to the ones where you feel like you've driven down the throat and all these negative things come back at the end. It's not good. We've all been there. We don't like that. So just remember, sales is not about pushing this. It's all about guidance. You are the consultant. You are helping that person. Once you realize this, you start to feel more natural. And again, never feel like you're pushing someone to do something. That means you have unalignment with your products, you have unalignment with how you're actually dealing with them, you're not guiding them, and you are just becoming that B salesperson rather than the master that is helping people change their life, making more money, solve this problem, and be of service to someone.